Hi friends, I have a full master guide on how to play Rampart. With the Evolution Collection event, Rampart received a solid buff to her ultimate that makes her a much more useful legend. I might even say she's the best defensive legend in the game at the moment. Let's go through each of her abilities and I'll give tips as we go along. So Ramparts' passive ability is Modded Loader. This increases the magazine capacity or the heat capacity if you've got an L-Star, and also allows faster reloads or cooldown. This only applies to LMGs including the L-Star and the minigun. So you get a 15% increase in magazine size and a decrease in reload time by 25%. This also applies to the L-Star in terms of overheat and cooldown as I mentioned. A cool thing to know is that the reload speed stacks with the faster reload speed of stocks. So if you've got a purple stock which reduces the reload time by 10%, this then stacks with Ramparts Passive, meaning on LMGs with the purple stock, Rampart can get a 35% reduction in reload time, which is actually quite a significant amount. Now this doesn't mean you have to use LMGs. You still want to use the weapons that you're best with, but using LMGs can definitely help as a Rampart, and I would suggest if you are Rampart, head into the firing range and start practicing with LMGs. A top tip for this passive, if you want to go super crazy, carry 2 L-Stars. You can bypass the cooldown time if you've got 2 purple stocks on the L-Stars because it allows you to switch quickly between them before they overheat. And essentially this gives you an endless firing L-Star. Moving on to Ramparts Tactical, we've got the Amped Cover. This allows you to build a cover wall which deploys a full cover amped wall which blocks incoming shots and amps outgoing shots. You can have up to 5 of these down at any one time. If you place more than 5, it will simply replace the first cover you put down. You can also hold 3 charges of this at any one time, and it takes around 20 seconds to replenish a charge. The amped cover takes 3 seconds to deploy and has 45 HP during that time, meaning if you see a Rampart deploying her cover, you want to try and shoot it straight away. Likewise, if you're a Rampart trying to put down your cover, it's normally good to get it down early before enemies start shooting. Now after it's deployed, the base has 400 HP and the amped part of the wall has 175 HP. The amped part will boost the damage of each bullet by 20%, and this actually applies to every single weapon in the game. One thing you should note though is that you can't stack the damage. For example, if you try to put 2 barriers in front of each other, it won't increase the damage boost. You'll still only get 20%, and it will actually end up destroying the barriers in front of the main barrier. So in essence you'll just be wasting your tactical. Oh, and you can pick up the amped walls to restore 1 charge, but this only applies if it hasn't taken any damage yet. I should say though it's still worth picking up the walls even if they've taken damage, particularly if you're moving position and you don't want the enemies to benefit from the amped damage they can get from your cover. Now I'm a big fan of the amped walls. They work so well defensively but also offensively as well. One thing you should know is that Crypto's EMP can destroy Rampart's walls. Caustic gas can also deal damage at 1 damage per tick to the walls. A top tip here if you're against a Rampart is that the Arc Star deals 1.5 times damage to the walls. So if you're trying to decide which grenade to throw in, Arc Stars should be your first choice. Melee is the most effective way to destroy amped cover though. 2 melee hits and it will destroy the cover. As you may have guessed, placement is really important for Ramparts Tactical. I like to place the walls at 90-degree angles, so I have cover in front and from the sides. It's also a good idea to spread out where you put the walls. You don't always have to use the walls to camp or in defensive situations though. The walls can act as a zoning tool to split up teams in offensive positions. Here are a few ways that you can make use of Ramparts Tactical better. You can use the walls to see where enemies are. Often enemies will shoot the top part of the wall to stop you getting amped damage. It's not as good as a Bloodhound scan, but can be a useful trick just to work out which location the enemies are in. You can also use the walls to block doors. Yes, this works when you're defending a building, but it's also great offensively. You can use it to separate teams and create a 1v1 situation to your advantage. Likewise, the barriers also work well on drop because of this ability to block doors. You can use it to stop pesky players trying to punch you out or grabbing the loot before you. And if someone does grab the loot before you, you can use the barriers to block the doorways or areas, slowing down the enemies, giving you enough time to escape and grab some loot of your own. Rampart's tactical also acts as a great distraction, especially if you're peeking from cover. You can place the wall to the left of the cover and it will often distract enemies long enough for you to peek the other corner or even escape. By the way, the amped wall blocks all damage till it's destroyed, meaning if there's a grenade in front of you, you can quickly deploy your cover between you and the grenade and you'll take no damage. This also works if you're running from an enemy. You can slide jump and spin behind you to place a wall. It's usually enough to absorb a few bullets and distract them for a little bit, giving you just a little bit of extra time to escape. A top tip, if your teammate is blocking your wall's optimal placement, jump vertically and this will help you put the wall in front of your teammate. You can see from these tips that the wall works well in defensive and offensive situations. Now let's move on to Rampart's ultimate, the mobile minigun known as Sheila. Previously you could only place Sheila down as a static turret, but with the evolution update you can now use Sheila like a mobile minigun, and it's really awesome. Sheila deals 14 body and leg damage plus 28 headshot damage per bullet. Now technically Sheila has the fastest fire rate in the game at 1200 RPM. To put that into perspective, the R99 is the fastest standard weapon at 1080 RPM. You are limited to one mag of 173 bullets while in mobile form. By the way, if you do use all your mobile ammo and you then place Sheila on the ground, it actually auto reloads. Also, don't forget, if you haven't used the gun and you put it away, you can take it out at any time. There is a spin up time for Sheila as well that you should make note of because it's fairly significant. And you can either spin up by holding fire or ADSing to have it pre-spinning. Mobile spin up does take longer. It takes 1.8 seconds to spin up in mobile mode versus 1.25 seconds when placed down. Let's talk about some tips on how you can improve the way you use Sheila. Sheila can destroy doors, so if you've got an enemy crouched behind doors trying to heal, simply pull out Sheila and fire at the door. You can then say goodbye to the door and goodbye to the enemy. In mobile mode, the charge up time is really significant in a fight, especially if the enemy has a fast firing weapon. That 1.8 seconds that it takes to charge up can be the time that an R99 takes to empty its full magazine. There are a few effective ways to counter this though, to make it more viable in a fight. The first option is simply to walk into a fight already aiming down sights, so your minigun is ready to fire. The issue is you're really slow when you're moving while aiming down sights, so this usually works best when there are two teams already fighting that aren't focused on you. The second option is to get your tactical down or use an existing piece of cover to ADS with your minigun, and you can then move forward once you deal damage because that cover will just give you time to ramp up your gun. The third option is to use some kind of movement as you move into a fight to buy you time to ramp up Sheila. I like to crouch spam as I ramp up Sheila because I find this usually helps. As you can see in this situation with the lifeline, I was able to buy myself some time by crouch spamming while Sheila charged up, and then I dealt a good amount of damage to the lifeline. You can also wind up Sheila while sliding down a hill. I also like to use Sheila to finish off downed opponents. I find it shreds through knockdown shields really easily. Overall, I would say Rampart suits a defensive playstyle, however you can definitely use her more offensively as well. Her tactical works really well to zone off enemies, and this can be a great way to create 1v1 situations. Go check out my video on how to choose your main if you want to see which playstyle suits you best. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.